Hello there. Welcome to Pyramid Knits, Episode 8. My name is Liz. I am a knitter and natural dyer living in northern New Mexico in the southwestern United States. I am coming to you from my living room, just outside of Taos. And today we're going to talk about lots of crafty business. It is Sunday morning here, May 3rd. Sorry, I just got a text message. I apologize for the dings. Where was I? Yes, today is Sunday, May 3rd. I didn't record in April. I intended to, but, I think we've all intended to do a lot of things lately that have not gotten done. And I'm just gonna not give myself a hard time about it. I'm also coming to you with no makeup. I have not brushed my hair. So that's, pretty standard these days, right? Since the last time I talked with you guys, it's just become summer. It's lovely and beautiful here. It's been like 80 degrees for a week now. And it's just been lovely weather. I've had, my doors and my windows open all the time. I've been sleeping with my window open now. It's so nice. So that's really good. We are not past our last frost date here, so there's still a chance that we could get a cold snap or some snow even. I remember the first year that I lived here, we had snow on Mother's Day, like a pretty good snow on Mother's Day. So there's still a chance that we might get another snap, but it sure doesn't feel like it. Here is my garden bed that I'm starting this year. I haven't planted anything. I'm going to dig one more bed the same size right next to that. And there is my garden bed I started last year, which is already planted. And you can see some of the stuff coming up. I've done a lot of seed out here and also planted out some starts that I did inside already. And there's a broccoli that I started inside. He's looking good. And a little kale I started inside. And my strawberry from last year has a flower on it, which is very exciting. And from seed, I've got spinach and peas coming up in the garden. And there's some more peas, and then volunteer chard behind him, which I wasn't expecting, but has been a pleasant surprise to see popping up. And my iris bed is looking pretty good. I've been watering it, which is more than I've ever done, but it's still not showing any signs of flowering anytime soon, so we'll see. And there's one of my garden helpers hanging out in the sunshine. And there's my other garden helper hanging out in the shade and asking for belly rubs. And he always gets belly rubs when he asks. Yes, he's a very good boy. We are still on lockdown, stay-at-home order here in New Mexico until May 15th at least. We'll find out more then. Some things have started opening up here. Golf courses reopened, so my dad is super excited. He has something to do now. He was getting a little restless. So now he can go out on the golf course. But otherwise, there's not really anywhere to go anyhow. So, just been hanging out at home. Spending time with my plants. Spending time with my dogs. Another thing that happened since the last time I talked to you is that I had to build a fence because it turns out my dog jumps the fence that I had. And he was jumping the fence and chasing people down the street, which was not good. I've only had him for about 3 months. I got him at the end of January. He was rescue. So, still learning all of his quirks and his personality is still coming out. But yeah, he's a fence jumper. So I spent a good bit of April building a fence, which is kind of why I didn't podcast. I intended to a couple of weekends in a row, but they ended up getting taken over by fence building, setting posts, stringing wire. I did get some help from my dad and from friends who came, and that was really nice because I got to actually socialize with people for a couple of days in a row. And when we were done, I went out and picked up some pizza. And when we were done, we got to sit in a big circle, a very wide circle outside, and eat some pizza and drink some beer and just relax and revel in a job well done building a fence, which we sort of closed in. It's probably close to an acre. We didn't have to do fencing on two sides, so it was really just like two sides that we had to do. But we put in a couple of gates too. So there was pouring concrete and setting posts and all that business. But it was like 400 feet of fencing, I think, that we put up, of like 6-foot deer fencing. Yeah. So that was fun. But at least the weather was nice. Overall, though, the month of April, I was really not motivated to do anything. I didn't get very much done. I just feel like I didn't get very much done at all. I haven't been motivated to knit at all. My mojo is just kind of going out the window, which is a real bummer because I had some big knitting plans, which are not happening. But there's a pandemic on, and I'm giving myself a pass, and I'm not going to force myself to knit. If I feel like knitting, great. If I'm not feeling like knitting and I just feel like laying on the couch under a blanket and staring at the TV, then that's fine too. But I'm having motivation issues for sure. But right at the start of this, I was really taking solace in my knitting and my crocheting. I was all about stockinette. I was all about working on my granny stripe crochet blanket because they were just nice, mindless, repetitive things to work on. But then I even lost mojo for that. So kind of the most I've been mustering lately is whenever I sit down to knit, I'll do 3 or 4 rows and then kind of wander off and do something else. That's just the way it's going. So I'm not going to beat myself up about it. I'm way behind on all of my knitting goals. I don't really have any finished objects to show you. I'm going to count this as a finished object, which I'll get to later. It's a mended object, so it was already finished, but then it was in sweater surgery for a very, very long time, and now it's out. So this is kind of a finished object. It's the Tegna sweater by Caitlin Hunter. You might have heard of it. Let me stand up. Scoot the chair back. All right, there we go. Hey, check it out. It's so cute. I love this top. It's so nice and light and airy, and it fits so well. I love the drape of it. I do not have sleeves because I got this far and I just wanted to wear it. That's mostly why. I have enough yarn for sleeves. I told myself that I would knit the sleeves eventually after I wore it a few times, but I kind of just like it like this. It's just the stockinette all the way up to the edge here, so the selvage just rolls in on itself. Like it's doing the same thing that the neckline does. Obviously this is rolling out, so you're seeing the reverse stockinette there. But this just rolls in on itself, so it contains everything. It looks nice and finished to me. So I don't know. I'm a little bit iffy if I should put sleeves on it or not. I don't really see the point. But I have enough yarn. And I don't know what else I would use that yarn for, so yeah, I don't know. So if anybody out there has an opinion, if I should knit sleeves onto my Tegna or not, let me know. The yarn I used for this is another local Taos dyer. It's Vortex Yarns. in the Whirl base. It's a single ply merino, 100% merino, and the colorway is herb. And I love it. I did alternate skeins, of course, and it's such a fun top. I love it. So the thing that happened with this, my dog ate it. Yeah, like he really ate it. I finished this last summer. I wore it exactly once to an outdoor concert. Might have spilled some beer on it, so, in my dog's defense, I'm sure it smelled very tasty. And he grabbed it off of the cupboard in my bedroom, and he chewed a hole on it right in front of me. I was here. I was on the phone. He was upset that I wasn't paying attention to him, and I was talking on the phone. And I suddenly turned around, and he was chewing on my sweater, and he chewed like a 3-inch hole in it. Like really big. I have a picture of it somewhere. I will try and insert it here. Thank God he did it in the stockinette and not in the lace. Because I don't know what I would have done then. I mean, probably the same thing I did now. Yeah, so what I ended up doing, I cut the sweater in half. I took out the whole section where the hole was, and then I reknit that up from the bottom, filled in those 3 inches, and then I grafted it all back together. That was kind of a challenge. This is fingering, and it's got a lot of ease to it. So it was something ungodly, like 350 stitches around. Doing Kitchener stitch with a single ply was a little bit maddening. I got a lot better at it as I went through. And let me see. I know, I'm like, I can't even see the line, really, which is kind of amazing. Oh, there it is. You can see my Kitchener line right here. There's a little bit of kind of tension that's different. But it's really not that noticeable once I'm wearing it. It's more noticeable on the back. Maybe. Oh, maybe not. Anyway, yeah, so that took me a really, really, really long time. Obviously, it's taken me a year to fix it. Mostly because I just mentally couldn't face it most of the time. It had to sit in timeout for a few months before I even attempted to take it apart because it just caused me such anxiety looking at it. And I would get mad at my dog. And yeah, the Kitchener just took forever until one day, my God, people, I had a revelation about Kitchener stitch. And this is what happens when you learn how to knit from books and the internet. Like, I didn't have anybody teach me really. Like, my friend taught me how to knit. She taught me how to cast on and knit and purl. And everything else I've learned from books or the internet. I didn't have a family member teaching me how to do this since I was a kid, so I don't know all of this stuff. So anyway, I was watching a tutorial video that kind of randomly popped up on my YouTube suggestions from Amy Florence of the Stranded podcast. It's a pretty old video. Like, I think it's a couple of years old. But she did a tutorial on how to do an afterthought heel, the way that she does afterthought heels. And I thought, oh, that might be interesting. I've done afterthought heels a couple of times, and I wasn't ever really happy with them, the way they looked or the way it ended up fitting. So I figured, hey, let's watch this, and maybe I'll learn a new technique or figure out how to do this better. Which it was super helpful. I do want to try and do an afterthought heel again, using this technique, because I think it'll come out fitting a lot better, and it'll more closely resemble the heels that I do whenever I'm just knitting through. I'll usually do just a German short row heel. German short row heel. Excuse me. Because it's easy, it's quick, there's no fiddling, there's no increases, like gusset increases and decreases. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to pick up any stitches. I know how to do it by memory. And yeah, I always know, like, once I get to the heel of my sock, if I sit down for 30 minutes, I'll knit through the heel and then I can just be back to stocking it in the round forever. Anyhow, the point being, she was showing the Kitchener stitch to close up the end of the afterthought heel, right? And I saw her doing it, and I was like, oh my god, I can't believe this never occurred to me before. I've always done Kitchener stitch as a 4-step process, because that's how I've always seen it written out, which is the first step. You take your needle, your sewing needle, your yarn needle, whatever, through the first stitch, take it off, through the first stitch on the first needle, take that stitch off, and then go through purlwise on the second stitch, leave it on, go through purlwise on the first stitch on the back needle, take it off, go through knitwise on the stitch on the back needle, and then come back to the start and repeat. But what she did was she took her yarn needle, she went in knitwise into the first stitch, popped it off the needle, and then went in purlwise into the next stitch on the first needle, and then pulled it through. And it was one motion. And then she went to the back, put the needle in purlwise into the first stitch, just popped it off, and then went in knitwise and just pulled it through in one motion. And I was like, oh my god, this is changing my life. So I got this back out, and I started doing it. And I was like, this is so much faster. It's literally 50% faster. And the tension looks so much better. Like, I can see whenever I was, pulling all the way through and then taking the stitch off, it would like stretch the stitch out a little bit, and I was getting this elongated left or right leg on the graft, and it just wasn't looking great. Which thankfully that part is on the back, the back of the sweater. It looks a lot better on the front. But doing both stitches in the same motion off the front needle and then both stitches in the same motion off the back needle, the tension was such improved. It really became much more invisible. It became so much faster, and it became way less annoying and tedious. So now I never have been scared of Kitchener stitching. But like now I'm almost actively looking forward to doing it again. And that's a crazy thing to say. Yeah, so that was my big revelation with this. So I'm super happy. It's done. It's done. I have a summer top again. Yes. So that's my only finished object. So let's move on to works in progress. Last time I showed you my Myrtle sweater, which is a pattern by Kate Davies. Let me grab it over here. And I told you that, by the next time I talk to you, this should be done. It's not. It's not done. It's slightly more done than it was last time, but not by very much. So here's the sweater. I am knitting this in Knit Picks. I did this last time too. Knit Picks Cloud, I think. It's their alpaca, lace weight alpaca. And I don't recall all of the colorway names. I should have it on my project page on Ravlery. They're all named after, they're all like people names. Like Fran or something. Anyway. So I was working on the sleeve last time. I think I was only a few stripes in. I was probably right about here. So I really, I worked on it. I dedicated some time to it. I think I have one more stripe to do, and then the cuff. And then the sleeve is done. And then I still have to knit another sleeve. But as, the pandemic and lockdown continued, suddenly a lace pattern on size 2 needles was just not what I was in the mood for. I mean, it's not complicated. I have the pattern memorized. I don't have to refer back to anything. But yeah, it just was not very inspiring to me, and I just wanted to knit on stockinette, and I just wanted to crochet on my blanket. So I said, you know what? It's pandemic. That's fine. I'll put it away. I'll get it done for the fall. So that's the plan on this now, is to get this done for the fall, hopefully. I am doing a little bit of yarn chicken with my main color that I have the ribbing in. I'm getting a little nervous about it. I do have some other dark blue lace weight yarn that is not the same base, but I think the color is really pretty close to this navy. And I think I might be able to get away with it. Because I'm worried doing this nice long ribbing, which I really, really like. I want to be able to still do that on the neckline and on the sleeve cuffs. I have a nice, what is this, 2-3 inches of ribbing or something. But I don't think I have enough in this yarn. I'm really worried. So I might need to try and figure that one out. I suppose I could order it again from Knit Picks, just order another ball. Since it's commercial, I don't think there would really be an issue with dye lots, and they're affordable. I wouldn't be breaking the bank to grab one more ball of this. But I also don't then want to have a whole ball of lace weight yarn just sitting around, because I don't really knit in lace weight very often. I don't know that I would ever use it for anything else. So I'm hoping this other yarn I have left over from a shawl project I did several years ago, that was a gift, that it'll match close enough, and maybe I can do the sleeve cuffs in that. Maybe you won't notice it as much. Or maybe I can just use that for the little stripes on the second sleeve, and maybe that'll save me enough yarn. Just these little, they're just two row stripes in between. And maybe that would save me enough yarn that I could have enough of this for the cuffs and the collar. And I don't think you would notice as much if the color is just a little bit, not quite exactly the same shade of navy, just on the little stripes in between. I don't think you would notice it that much. So I might do that for the second sleeve. And that's the plan with my Myrtle. Very sad I could not show you that as a finished object today. But COVID motivation, hey? That's just kind of how it goes. Right, so I just wanted to knit stockinette, but I can't not have a sweater that I'm working on. That's just insanity. So naturally, I've done this. Oh gosh, it's all tangled and everything. Hang on. Oh, I know what it is. Here we go. Okay. So this is Afterparty. It's a pattern from Lane magazine, issue 6, I think. Got all of my ends all tangly. There we go. So yeah. So I cast this on back in January before I left for New York to go to Vogue Knitting Live, because I needed a travel knitting project. And I worked on it whenever I was in New York. I just cast on the sleeve first, because it's easier and more portable, and I could just kind of go with it. So I don't know where I was. I don't know. I think I actually had gotten pretty far on the sleeve. And I did a bad thing with a sweater. I did not gauge swatch. I always gauge swatch for sweaters, at least. I always do a gauge swatch for sweaters. I did not for this one because I've used this yarn before. So I thought I could just go and look at my other projects that I've knit with the same base, and just calculate my gauge from that. But everything I had, like, it was either color work with the same needle size, or it was a different needle size with stockinette, and I didn't really have anything that matched the project that I'm actually doing, which is why you gauge swatch, right? Yeah, I should have done that. Should have done that. Anyway, but I just kind of guesstimated, and I was like, well, it'll probably be around in here. And I'm casting on the sleeve first, so it's like not that big of a commitment if it's not the right size. And I can just try it on as I go and adjust my increases if I need a few extra or whatever, because I often do need to make that adjustment in sweater patterns with sleeves pretty much all the time. I have very skinny wrists. So I have a really big size difference between my wrists and my shoulder. So I usually have to add in extra increases or decreases depending which way you're going on sleeves. So I was like, I know all of this. I feel confident. I've knit with this yarn before. Let's go for it. So I did. I cast it on. It was fitting great. Yeah, it was like spot on with my cast on. I was like, all right. I was going into the increases, and I'm like, I'm doing good. And then I was just carrying on and just going. And then I tried it on again. It was too small. And I was like, I should have known that. If I'd done a gauge swatch and if I'd actually measured anything, I could have avoided this fate. So I had to rip the sleeve out. I ripped it. I had it. I probably had knit like up to here, or I don't know. I'd gone through almost all of the increases I was supposed to do. So like the sleeve was almost done. And I realized it was too tight. And the sweater is meant to be worn with a lot of ease, a lot of positive ease. And I didn't want the sleeves to be super snug fitting. I want them to be nice and loose, and I want it to be a big, loose, comfy sweater. So I ripped it all back out, back down to here. And then I started again, and I was like, I still didn't measure anything. I still didn't do a gauge swatch. I just kind of estimated, and I was like, well, if I double the rate of increases on the sleeve, like that should be good. You should measure. You should do a gauge swatch. Do not do what I do. Because then I knit half the sleeve again. And I kept trying it on. I was like, ooh, I'm getting a little worried still. I don't know. And yeah, I kept trying it on. I got up probably, up around just above the elbow or something. And I was finally like, this is still not working. I have to rip it out again. So before I ripped it out again, I measured my gauge on my sleeve. Yeah. And turns out I was not hitting gauge, like, at all. Like, anywhere near to close. And then I measured my arms. And I said, how much ease do I want in my sleeves? And then I got out a calculator. And I did some multiplication. And I realized how very, very far off I was. Very, very far off. So then, with the power of mathematics, I started the sleeve again, and it worked. My math told me I was going to need to do a lot more increases than this, but I got up to this point, and I was like, if I keep increasing, this is just going to be gigantic. So I just started knitting straight here, and it's going to have, relatively deep armholes there, but it's good. It has a nice loose fit up here at the top, and the cuff fits just perfectly. So yeah, I'm happy with that. And I have knit both sleeves. So those are both done. Yay. And the other day, oh God, this is a big tangled mess. I cast on the body. That's a big tangled mess. Just ignore all of my in bits. Yeah, so I passed on the body. And now that I actually measured my knitting and figured out my gauge swatch, I realized with my gauge and this pattern, I had to cast on size 3XL, the biggest size that they have in there, which according to like the schematics, I should be a size large for the circumference size that I wanted. But with my gauge, I had to go up 3 sizes. Yeah. So I'm going to have a lot more stitches in this than most people. But that's fine. I like the look of this fabric. I'm happy with the look of it, and the, what do you call it? The drape. I'm losing words. Anyway, I'm happy with the fabric that this gauge makes. It feels nice and soft and light and fluffy, and it doesn't feel dense or anything. So I just have to knit a different size, and it'll come out. Knitting the 3 extra large is going to end up being the size of a large. So there you go. The yarn I'm using is mine, Pyramid Dye Works. This is my 1/2 pint base, and it is 100% Peruvian wool, and I dyed the main color with avocados. Yeah, that's fair to the color. Oh my gosh, I'm actually in the camera now. I can kind of see the variation in the color. It looks very flat when you're just looking at it in person, but you can see a little bit. There's like darker bits and then little lighter bits and stuff. Anyway, main color is dyed with avocado, and this secondary color is dyed with cochineal. And this is, it is my yarn. I dyed it, but it's not a base that I have. It was just like some little sample sock skeins I had of like a tweed sock base that I was just playing around with cochineal, and got this great dark maroon color. So I'm using that for my contrasting color. And yeah, so on the body, at the bottom of the body, once I get through the ribbing, I'm going to repeat this little motif here. And then there's a color work yoke as well. So yeah, I wanted to be done with this already. I just had my birthday this week. Happy birthday to me. I am now 39 years old. It's my last 30s. Anyway, and I wanted to have a new cast on for my birthday. And I have yarn for another sweater, and I was planning to have this done and also have my Myrtle done and then cast on this new sweater on my birthday. Clearly, I'm nowhere close, and this is pretty much just stuck in it forever until I get to the yoke. So it should serve for quarantine knitting whenever I feel vaguely motivated. Knit 3 rows, set it down. At that rate, I'll be done in like 5 years. So that's my after party. And those are, the only sweaters I have to show today. Everything else is accessories and blankets and things. So what's next? What's next? I've already talked about Yarn Chicken on one project. And now let's talk about Yarn Chicken on another project. I do not have enough of this. to finish this. At all. There's no way. I just weighed this morning. It's 6 grams. This is not going to cut it. So this is the Litmus cowl. It is a pattern by Amy Florence of the Strand podcast as well. I'm doing this cool blue gradient with the whites in between. I'm pretty close to being done. I'm on my last gradient repeat, and I love this thing. It's like so cool. I love how it's turning out. It's awesome. Yeah. Anywho. So I need to do these white stripes. I have, how many more? I think I have like 4 more white stripes that I have to do that are 8 rows each, and I have 6 grams left. And my local yarn shop closed. Like, for real. Where I used to work. And where I bought this. Yeah, she spent the last couple of weeks just clearing out the shop, and it is empty now. So I need to give a ring over to the former owner of the shop and see if she might still have some of this lying around in her stock. Otherwise, I'm going to have to try and order it online or something. It's Fiberco Acadia. I don't recall the colorway name. I mean, it's white, you know. It's really, really nice. It's a wool silk blend. It's pretty pricey. I think it's like $15 for 50 grams or something. But it's really, really luscious. So I had bought 2 of them, thinking that would be enough. And it should have been enough because I did do my math on this. I weighed everything out as I was starting to knit it, so I knew exactly how many grams I could use of for each stripe, and I would have enough. And it worked out for the color, so this is what I have left over. This is one color that I've totally finished knitting on in here. Which one is it? That one? Yeah, it's that one. So I'm done with this color. There's 4 grams left over. Perfect. Perfect. I am happy with that. This is reasonable leftovers. 6 grams left, and I still have so much to do. Like, I don't know how it's so far off. So it's kind of a rustic yarn. I don't know if you can tell. There we go. You can't really tell. I mean, there's a bit of thick and thinness to it. You know, there's some little bits where you get kind of a thicker spot and little slubs and things in it, which gives it a really nice texture. But I think it might have messed up my weight math. That it's not that consistent with the weight throughout the skein. Whereas this is super, super consistent. You know, I mean, it's totally smooth. It's also a wool silk blend. But it's totally smooth and very consistent. So yeah, I mean, I guess that's what happened. Because I did my math, but it didn't work out. So yeah, I could probably get through 1 more white stripe, so I can still knit on this for a little bit. 2 stripes worth, before I gotta find some extra. Which is a shame, because I'm really excited about this and wearing this. But judging by the recent weather, I'm not going to get to wear this until next fall anyhow. So, yeah. Got to get some more yarn for this one. Yeah. Okay. And last time I talked to you, I was also knitting on some socks. I had just started them because I was on a bunch of conference calls and socks were going fast. And shortly after that, my workplace discovered video conferencing. We used to just do phone conferencing. So my sock knitting really slowed down there. I did recently figure out a better setup for my video conferencing where I can have a sock down below and nobody can notice that I'm knitting on it. So hopefully, I'll get this done. Anyhow, last time I showed you this, I was just like right around in here or so. And I was like, I really like what's happening here. This is not a self-striping yarn. This is pooling. There are no stripes in this. And that's really, really cool. Like, how awesome is that it's turning out to be a striped sock, but it's not. It's a spiral. It's color pooling that's just spiraling up the sock. No stripes. And it's just like, it's just working out so perfectly. Like, I don't understand how it's happening. So like, even on my heel, on my short row heel, the colors lined up with each other when I turned it. Can you believe that? Like, how cool is that? Here we go. That the orange lined up with the orange, and the blue lined up with that it all just lined up with itself. So yeah, I'm really, really happy about these. The yarn is from Woolly Lizard out of Cortez, Colorado. I bought it at the Taos Wool Fest. I tried to look her up online, but it didn't look like she sold anything online because I was really curious if she had other colorways that would do this same effect. Like, this is awesome. So yeah, I'm really happy with this. I'm to the point where I could start doing ribbing for the top, but I've still got plenty of yarn left. I weighed it and I still have 75 grams left. So I'm going to knit for another inch or two and then do a few inches of ribbing and just try and use up more of it. But yeah, now that I have figured out how to discreetly knit on some Sockinette socks while I'm in a video conference, that's going to make my life a lot better. And it's going to make those 3-hour video conferences a lot more bearable. Yeah. And my last whip to show you is my granny stripe blanket. It's getting bigger. It's getting bigger. Oh, I'm loving it too. It's so much fun. It is kind of getting to the point now where it's sort of a blanket on my lap when I work on it, which is still nice in the evenings because it's still getting down, into the 40s at night here. So if I'm sitting on the couch, and I have my living room window open in the evenings, this is still nice to have on my lap. But I imagine that's not going to be the case for very much longer. This is a queen size blanket. Boom. Boom. It's big. I recently stopped, took a moment and wove in all of my ends, which of course you can see an end there, but that's from what I've done after I wove in my ends. So yeah, I won't have a giant end weaving session at the end of this. I'm just going to take breaks periodically, weave in my ends, and then move along. But yeah, I'm really loving this and the color sequence that's coming up. Just using up all my scraps. And it's going. And it's great COVID knitting. Crocheting. COVID crocheting. Excuse me. So, if any sort of mojo comes back, hopefully it won't be too hot to work on this. So other crafty things that I've been up to, making masks. Yeah, that's a thing that we do now. So I've made 2 masks. Unfortunately, I was a big procrastinator, and my sewing machine needs servicing. It's all gummed up, and it'll work for a minute, and then the needle just gets stuck down, and it needs servicing. I've never had it serviced, so it needs servicing. I don't sew that often, but I've had it for years, and I've sewn enough projects on it that it needs some love. So I was procrastinating taking that into the sewing machine repair shop here in town, which I don't know if they'll ever open again now. So my sewing machine doesn't work, is basically what I'm saying. So I had to hand sew some masks. So I only made 2. I made my first one out of a reusable grocery bag and some old leggings. So it worked really well to use the old leggings as my little ear holders because, it's a knit fabric. So it's super stretchy. And and I have some rubber coated wire going across the nose so I can make it fit to my face. And and it's, there you go. That's mask number 1. And then mask number 2 is a little bit lighter. That one is quite thick. It's 3 layers of fabric. This one is just 2 layers of fabric and it's cotton. So this is much lighter, but I did the same thing with the old leggings as the ear ties. I do need to make a little adjustment on this and just pinch it down one more fold just so it fits a little bit better over here on the side. Yeah, like that. Oop. And just kind of cinch that in a little bit. But it's the same concept, same pattern. It's and I just have a paper clip. It doesn't work as well as that wire. That wire really stays in the shape that you put it. Where I feel like every time I put this on, I have to readjust it because the paper clip gets bent whenever I put it in a bag or something. So these are my 2 masks so far. I'm sure I'll make a few more as time goes on. I've got some more scrap fabric and more more old leggings. So that's been some of my crafty business. And you can tell it's hand sewn. It looks terrible. My God. Yeah, I don't know what I'm doing. I was getting better at it. I did it all just with a back stitch. It's not the most even thing in the world, but hey, whatever. Yeah, and this is an old. I was making a pillowcase, and I am not good at sewing. I'm just not good at it. My brain it can't understand it for some reason. I was making a pillow cover, and I sewed it with. I should have sewn it, with the right sides facing each other, and then you turn it inside out, right? I had one of them upside down, so the pattern faced to the inside of the pillow on one side, and it was just such a stupid mistake, and I didn't want to seam rip all the way around it, and I just I got mad and threw it in my fabric stash. I was just go away, go away. So yeah, I cut it up for this. So the bottom still has my buttonhole from whenever it was a pillow cover. But make do. That's what we're all doing these days. So that's my sewing projects. The other new crafty business I've been getting into is spinning. So welcome to a new section of the show, and a new crafty rabbit hole to go down. So I got a drop spindle several years ago as a gift. And I was starting to learn how to spin on the drop spindle. And again, I didn't have anybody to teach me. I watched a video on YouTube or something, and went on my way and discovered I was not very good at it. It was not good. It was not good yarn that I made. Um, and, I didn't know how to ply. Like, I didn't know what to do with it once it was on there. And um, just one of those things. It didn't really grab me. I'll do the thing where I get the drop spindle out and I'll spin for like 15 minutes a day for 3 or 4 days in a row. And then I put it away and I don't touch it again for like months and months and months. So I never really have given myself the chance to get better at it. And I've never really had the urge to learn to spin until recently. The urge to learn to spin has come in this year, and I am getting myself a spinning wheel. Yay! I'm getting my first spinning wheel. So I got my drop spindle back out because I knew I was getting a spinning wheel. Because hello birthdays. So I knew I was getting a spinning wheel, so I was like, I should practice spinning a little bit. So I got out the drop spindle, which already had a bunch of yarn spun on it that had probably been put there over the course of like 3 years. Whenever I would occasionally get it out, and I would just spin a little bit on it and then put it away, and then I'd spin a little bit on it, months later and put it away. So I spun a little bit more on it, and then I was like, you know what? I just need to get this off my drop spindle and start fresh so that I can like actually try and learn something. So I took it off my drop spindle. I plied it to itself. I don't even know what that's called. I know nothing about spinning. And yeah, I made this. I made this yarn on a drop spindle over like 3 years. So yeah, you can definitely see it's not the most even thing, and I definitely got it all tangled up in itself while I was plying it, and I just like let it ply into itself and just like have big tangles, and I was like, fuck it. Sorry. Just get it off the thing. I don't care. So it's pretty tightly spun in a lot of it. It's pretty uneven in a lot of it. But there's some parts that actually look pretty good. I was like, hey, that's a real yarn. I made a yarn. That's pretty cool. So then I immediately started working on the drop spindle again. And I told myself, okay, well, I want to spin a DK or a worsted weight. I'm going to do 2-ply. I'm going to do the same thing I did on this one and just spin for a while. I'm going to aim for a certain weight, and then I'm going to take it off, and then I'm just going to apply it to itself on the drop spindle. And I made this. It looks so much better. Like, look at the improvement. My God. Yeah, so I'm really, really happy with this. You can obviously see there's still a lot of variation in the size, but it's much more evenly spun. It's much smoother. The tension is much better. I still managed to ply in some big nasty slubs, but whatever. It's practice. It's just practice. So yeah, I was really, really pleased with this. I made yarn, and it looks like proper yarn that I might actually want to use. That's amazing. So yeah, and then I was cleaning up my house, and I put my drop spindle away, and I haven't gotten it out since. So yeah, I should pull my drop spindle back out. I think I'm getting my wheel today, though. So yeah, I'm gonna have to go into town and see about that. So yeah, so I might just start working on the wheel and see what happens. If anybody can point me in the direction of a good spinning YouTube instructional channel or something like that, please do. Please do. I don't know what I'm doing. The woman who I worked for who owned the yarn shop, who is also the Vortex Yarns dyer of this Lovely, lovely, lovely yarn. Um, she was originally a spinner. Like that was her thing that got her into fiber. Um, and she's a crocheter. She actually doesn't knit that much. It's kind of funny. But she's mostly a spinner and a dyer. So she was super excited whenever I told her I was getting a spinning wheel. So I'm sure I can, call her up and ask for advice on things and, maybe do a Zoom lesson or something. Because, yeah, I am a baby spinner and I don't know what I'm doing. All right, so the last thing today, I'm just going to touch on my dyeing. I haven't dyed anything this month. Oh, that's a bad thing to admit on this podcast. Yeah, my motivation has been really low, clearly. I do have a little solar dye experiment going on in my front window, but I haven't done any proper dyeing all month. Because motivation's low, and I built a fence, and, the weather in most of April was still pretty iffy, and we had a lot of wind. A lot of wind. And you don't want to be out working in that kind of wind, and it would just blow out the flames on my propane stoves anyway. So, just one of those things, I can't work unless the weather's good. But I have been doing some admin, some cleanup for myself in my house. And I have been organizing all of the naturally dyed yarn that I have. This isn't quite all of it, but this is what I have ready to go, ready to sell. And since there's no retail stores anymore, that means I'm going online. So that's really exciting. So my plan is to get myself up onto Etsy this month. And get everything I've got in stock up there, and then I can get back to dyeing this summer and get some more stuff up there. So that's a fun, exciting, and scary thing. I will definitely keep you all posted here and over on Instagram, where you can follow me as Pyramid Dye Works, for whenever I get that part of my life in gear. So, yeah, I guess that's everything for this month, for April. I will record again in May. That's going to be my goal. Unless I am just totally unmotivated to do anything and I still haven't finished any projects or done any work on anything. Oh, dear. Yeah, so happy May. Happy spring going into summertime. I hope, even though you're probably stuck at home, that you're at least getting outside and getting some fresh air and getting some sunshine. Yeah, so that's it for me today. Stay safe, everybody, and I will see you in a few weeks.